You ever get that feeling? Like something bigger is going on behind the scenes, but nobody's saying it out loud? Because that's exactly what this situation with Aljamain Sterling feels like right now. On the surface, it sounds simple. He won't say no to a title shot. Cool, standard fighter talk, right? But then, out of nowhere, he flips it and says Movsar Evloev deserves it more. Hold on, what? That's not how this usually goes. This is the fight game. People campaign, they push, they call their shot. They don't step back and hand the spotlight to someone else, especially not when gold is on the line. So now fans are asking questions, real questions. Is this respect? Strategy? Or something deeper that nobody's openly talking about? Because here's where it gets interesting. Some people think this isn't just about fairness, it's about timing, about matchups, about what's really happening behind closed doors in the UFC. And if you've been watching combat sports long enough, boxing, MMA, all of it, you already know. What gets said publicly and what's actually happening aren't always the same thing. Social media is going crazy right now. Fans are split. Some are praising Sterling for being real. Others are like, nah, something's off. And then, there's the bigger angle nobody wants to touch. What if this isn't just about who deserves the shot, but who the UFC wants in that position? Yeah, that part. Because when a top fighter starts talking like this, it usually means one of two things. Either he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, or there's a story behind the story that hasn't hit the surface yet. So the real question is, why now? And trust me, once you start connecting the dots, this gets way deeper than a simple title shot conversation. If you're just tuning into this situation, you might think it's a simple headline, another fighter talking about a title shot. But the moment you really start paying attention, you realize this isn't your typical fight promotion talk. This is layered, and it's got the entire MMA community watching closely. Aljamain Sterling isn't new to pressure, controversy, or high-stakes moments. He's been through it all: title wins, criticism, redemption arcs, and he understands how this game works better than most. That's why what he said recently caught so many people off guard. Because instead of pushing his own case aggressively, he took a step back and acknowledged that Movsar Evloev might actually deserve the opportunity more. And in a sport where self-promotion is almost as important as performance, that kind of statement hits differently. Now let's be real. Fighters don't usually talk like this unless there's a reason. This isn't boxing where long negotiations and politics are expected to drag things out for months or even years. In MMA, especially inside the UFC, momentum is everything. Timing is everything. And when you're in a position to even be mentioned in title conversations, most fighters are doing everything they can to secure that spot. So when Sterling shifts the narrative like this, fans immediately start reading between the lines. Social media is saying this could be a sign of confidence, like he knows his time is coming regardless. Others believe it might be a calculated move to stay in good standing while the division figures itself out. But then, there's another group that thinks something else is going on entirely. Because if you look at Ultimate Fighting Championship history, title shots aren't always about who deserves it on paper. They're about timing, marketability, matchups, and sometimes even business strategy. Fans believe there are moments when the promotion leans towards certain fights because they generate more attention or fit a bigger narrative. And that's where this situation starts to feel a little more complex. Some people think Sterling's comments might be subtle, almost like he's acknowledging the reality of how decisions get made without directly calling anything out. Others are saying he's simply being honest, giving respect where it's due in a division that's stacked with talent. Meanwhile, Movsar Evloev's name has been gaining serious traction. He's undefeated, consistent, and has quietly built a resume that's hard to ignore. But here's the catch. He's not the loudest personality. He's not constantly calling people out or creating viral moments. And in today's fight game, that can sometimes affect how quickly opportunities come your way. Fans are starting to question whether performance alone is enough anymore, or if personality and promotion play a bigger role than people want to admit. That's why Sterling's statement feels so important. It shines a light on that exact conversation without saying it outright. At the same time, the division itself is in an interesting spot. There's movement, there's uncertainty, and there are multiple fighters who could realistically make a case for a title shot. That kind of environment creates tension because every decision matters. One fight announcement can shift the entire landscape. And when a former champion or top contender like Sterling speaks on it, people listen closely. Not just to what he's saying, but how he's saying it. His tone, his timing, his choice of words, all of it becomes part of the story. Fans are divided right now. Some are praising him, saying this is what real fighters sound like, honest, respectful, and aware of the bigger picture. Others are skeptical, wondering if there's a strategic angle behind it. Maybe he's positioning himself for a different fight. Maybe he knows something the public doesn't. Or maybe, just maybe, he's playing the long game in a way that most people aren't seeing yet. Because in combat sports, especially at the highest level, nothing is ever as simple as it looks on the surface. And that's what makes this moment so interesting. It's not loud. It's not chaotic. But it's loaded with meaning. The kind of situation where one statement can spark a much bigger conversation about how the sport really operates behind the scenes. And as more people start paying attention, it's becoming clear that this isn't just about one fighter stepping aside. It's about what that decision might reveal about the system as a whole. The reaction didn't just build, it detonated. Within hours, clips of Aljamain Sterling's comments were everywhere, stitched into debates, slowed down, replayed, and picked apart frame by frame. Social media was going crazy, and the conversation shifted from what he said to why he said it. Fans are shocked because this isn't the usual script. In a sport where fighters are expected to demand opportunities, Sterling sounded measured, almost strategic. Some people think that's a sign of confidence, like he knows his position is secure no matter how the next move plays out. Others aren't buying it. They're asking if this is damage control, or maybe a calculated way to stay aligned with how decisions are really made inside the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And then you've got the Evloev angle heating up fast. Movsar Evloev has been building momentum quietly, stacking wins, staying disciplined, doing everything by the book. But here's the twist fans keep bringing up. Being undefeated doesn't always translate to being next in line. People are divided because they've seen this before. There are moments when the sport leans into narratives that sell, matchups that spark headlines, and personalities that move numbers. Social media is saying that Evloev checks the competitive boxes, but Sterling understands the business side better than most. So when Sterling gives him that public nod, some believe it's respect, while others think it's a subtle way of spotlighting the gap between merit and marketability. The debate got louder when analysts and creators jumped in. One side argued that Sterling is setting a tone, showing what sportsmanship looks like at the top level. Another side pushed back hard, saying this is the fight game, not a charity line. You don't pass on a title shot, one commentator said, echoing what a lot of fans were already thinking. Emotions ran high because this hits a nerve in combat sports. Who truly deserves a shot and who actually gets it. That tension has always existed, but moments like this bring it right to the surface. There's also a timing factor people can't ignore. The division isn't static, it's shifting. Injuries, negotiations, scheduling windows, and even location can affect who fights next. Unconfirmed reports suggest that multiple scenarios are being discussed behind closed doors, but nothing is locked in publicly. That uncertainty creates space for speculation, and fans fill that space fast. Some believe Sterling might be positioning himself for a more favorable matchup down the line. Others think he's anticipating how the UFC might move and choosing not to fight the current. And then, there's a third group that believes this is a long game. Build goodwill now. Step in at the perfect moment later. Meanwhile, Evloev's supporters are louder than ever. They're pointing to his record, his consistency, and the fact that he hasn't needed controversy to stay relevant. For them, Sterling's comments feel like validation. But even within that support, there's caution. Fans know that acknowledgement doesn't equal opportunity. In this sport, things can change overnight. A single announcement can flip the narrative, and suddenly the deserving contender is watching from the sidelines again. That's why the conversation feels so intense, because it's not just about one decision, it's about a pattern people think they've seen before. And let's not ignore the psychological layer here. When a fighter at Sterling's level speaks like this, it can shift the energy in the room. Other contenders hear it. Matchmakers hear it. Even fans start adjusting expectations. Some people think that's the real play. Control the narrative without forcing it. Others think it's risky, because once you step back publicly, you might not get that same momentum back. Nothing is confirmed about how this will affect the final decision, but the ripple effect is already happening. At the center of it all is a simple question that doesn't have a simple answer. Is this about merit, strategy, or something deeper tied to how the sport operates? Fans are split, analysts are circling, and the pressure keeps building. Because if Sterling is being completely genuine, then this is one of the rare moments where a top contender openly acknowledges another fighter's claim. But if there's strategy behind it, then this could be one of those moves that only makes sense once everything unfolds. Either way, the stakes just got higher. Every interview, every post, every hint from insiders is now being watched closely. And the more people talk about it, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just a passing comment. It's a spark that's lighting up a much bigger conversation, and nobody's sure yet where it's going to lead. As the conversation kept building, something interesting started to happen. The focus shifted from just what was said to what it might mean long term. Fans weren't just reacting anymore, they were analyzing patterns, comparing past situations, and trying to figure out if this moment could reshape the division in a bigger way. And that's where things got even more intense. Because when you're talking about someone like Aljamain Sterling, you're not just dealing with a fighter, you're dealing with someone who understands the spotlight, the pressure, and the politics that come with being at the top. So every word carries weight, whether intentional or not. Some fans believe this is Sterling playing a deeper game, one that isn't obvious on the surface. They think he's stepping back now to position himself for a bigger opportunity later, maybe even a more favorable matchup that benefits him both competitively and financially. Others are pushing back against that idea, saying this might actually be one of the rare moments where a fighter is being completely real. No strategy, no hidden agenda, just giving credit where it's due. But in a sport where timing and opportunity can change everything overnight, it's hard for people to accept that things are ever that simple. At the same time, the attention on Movsar Evloev reached another level. His name wasn't just being mentioned, it was being debated, defended, and in some cases, questioned. Supporters are saying his record speaks for itself, that staying undefeated in a division this competitive should automatically put him at the front of the line. But critics are pointing out that dominance alone doesn't always guarantee the spotlight. They're asking whether he has the kind of presence that draws massive attention, the kind that promotions often look for when putting together a title fight. And that question, fair or not, has become a major part of the conversation. Social media is saying this situation is exposing something bigger about the fight game. It's not just about rankings or win streaks anymore. It's about narrative. Who has the story that people want to follow? Who creates the moments that go viral? Who keeps fans talking even when they're not fighting? These are the factors that some people think quietly influence decisions behind the scenes. And when Sterling publicly acknowledges Evloev's case, it almost feels like he's shining a light on that reality without directly calling it out. That's why people are paying such close attention, not just to what's being said, but to what might be implied. Meanwhile, the tension within the fanbase continues to grow. People are divided in a way that feels almost personal. One side sees this as a moment of integrity, something rare in a sport often driven by self-promotion and ego. The other side sees it as questionable, wondering if stepping back publicly could actually hurt Sterling's position in the long run. Emotions ran high in discussions, with debates turning into arguments and opinions becoming more extreme as time went on. It's the kind of situation where no matter what side you're on, you feel strongly about it. Behind the scenes, there's a growing sense that decisions are being weighed carefully. While nothing is confirmed, some people think the promotion is watching all of this closely, paying attention to fan reactions, engagement, and the overall buzz. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a sport, it's also entertainment. And moments like this, where the conversation extends beyond the fights themselves, can influence how future matchups are shaped. That possibility is fans even more invested, because it means their voices, their reactions, and their discussions could play a role in what happens next. What makes this moment even more unpredictable is how quickly things can change. One announcement, one injury, or one unexpected twist could completely shift the direction of the division. And with so many moving pieces, it's impossible to say with certainty how this will play out. Some believe Evloev is on the verge of getting the opportunity he's been working toward, while others think there could be a curveball coming that nobody sees yet. That uncertainty is what keeps everyone locked in, refreshing feeds, waiting for the next update that might finally bring clarity. Right now, it feels like the story is building towards something bigger, but we're not there yet. There's still a layer of mystery, a sense that key details haven't been revealed. And until those details come out, if they ever do, the speculation will continue. Because in a moment like this, where respect, strategy, and opportunity all collide, the truth isn't always easy to see. And that's exactly why this situation has captured so much attention. It's not just about what's happening, it's about what might be happening behind the scenes, just out of reach. As the tension kept building, the conversation reached a point where it felt like everything was about to tip in one direction or another, but no one could predict which way it would go. The noise didn't fade, it sharpened. Every new interview clip, every repost, every reaction added another layer to the story. Fans are still locked in, watching closely, because it feels like one announcement could change everything instantly. And right in the center of all this is Aljamain Sterling, a fighter who understands exactly how moments like this can shape careers, narratives, and legacies. Some fans believe this is where the real turning point is happening, not in the octagon, but in the conversation itself. Because when a top contender openly acknowledges someone else's claim, it doesn't just create headlines, it shifts expectations. Suddenly, people start looking at Movsar Evloev differently. He's no longer just the quiet, undefeated contender. He's now at the center of a debate about merit, opportunity, and timing. That shift in perception can be powerful. In combat sports, once the public starts seeing you as next, it can influence everything from matchmaking decisions to how future fights are promoted. But here's where things take another unexpected turn. Some people think Sterling's words might actually increase the pressure on Evloev rather than help him. Because now, if he does get the opportunity, expectations will be higher than ever. Fans will be watching closely, not just to see if he wins, but to see if he lives up to the moment that's been built around him. And if that opportunity doesn't come, the questions will only get louder. Why not? What changed? What are we not seeing behind the scenes? That uncertainty is what keeps this situation so intense. At the same time, there's a growing belief that the Ultimate Fighting Championship might be weighing multiple options very carefully. Nothing is confirmed, but fans believe that decisions like this aren't made lightly. They involve timing, business considerations, and long-term planning for the division. Some people think the promotion could lean toward the most competitive matchup on paper, while others believe they might prioritize the fight that generates the most attention. And in a moment like this, where the conversation is already this loud, both paths come with their own risks and rewards. Meanwhile, Sterling's position remains just as fascinating. By not aggressively pushing for the title shot, he's created a different kind of narrative around himself. Some fans see that as confidence, like he knows his value doesn't depend on forcing the moment. Others see it as a gamble, because in a sport this unpredictable, waiting for the right time can sometimes mean missing the opportunity altogether. That contrast is what keeps people debating. Is this a smart long-term play, or a risky move in a game where timing is everything? Social media is still going crazy, and people are divided more than ever. Some are praising the honesty, calling it refreshing in a sport often driven by hype and self-promotion. Others are questioning whether this approach works in today's landscape, where visibility and momentum can be just as important as skill. Emotions ran high as fans continue to argue their sides, each convinced they're seeing the situation clearly, while the other side is missing something important. And then, there's the bigger picture, the one that doesn't get talked about as openly. This moment feels like it's exposing how complex the fight game really is. It's not just about winning fights. It's about timing, narratives, business decisions, and sometimes even things the public never fully sees. That's why this situation feels so layered. It's not just one story. It's multiple stories happening at the same time, all connected but not fully revealed. Right now, everything feels like it's hanging in the balance. One official announcement, one unexpected twist, or one new piece of information could shift the entire narrative overnight. Until that happens, the speculation continues, the debate continues, and the anticipation keeps building. Because in a moment like this, where so many factors are in play, there's no clear ending, only the sense that something important is about to unfold. And when it finally does, it might not just answer the questions people are asking now, it might raise even more. So now everything comes down to this moment. We've heard what Aljamain Sterling said, we've seen how fans reacted, and we've watched Movsar Evloev go from a quiet contender to the center of one of the most debated title conversations right now. But the biggest question still hasn't been answered. What actually happens next? Because let's be real, nothing is confirmed yet. No official fight announcement, no final decision, no clear direction. Just tension, speculation, and a fanbase that's completely split down the middle. Some people believe this is respect at the highest level. Others think there's a deeper strategy playing out that we're only seeing pieces of. And then, there's that bigger question nobody can ignore. Is this really about who deserves the title shot, or is it about timing, business, and what the Ultimate Fighting Championship ultimately wants? That's the part that keeps this story alive. Because in this sport, one move can change everything overnight. One announcement can flip the narrative completely. And right now, it feels like we're right on the edge of that moment. So I've got to ask you, what do you think is really going on here? Do you believe Sterling is just being real and giving respect where it's due? Or do you think there's something happening behind the scenes that fans aren't seeing yet? And most importantly, who should actually get that title shot? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. I'm reading everything, and trust me, this is one of those conversations where every opinion matters. If you rock with this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next, because the second this situation shifts, you already know we're covering it. Stay locked in.